Hi, and welcome back to another episode of this Expat Life. And today I'm joined by another guest who's actually also a really good friend of mine. I'm joined by Delphine de Smet. And Delphine is a freelance marketing strategist and entrepreneur from Belgium. But more than that, she's also a life enthusiast, travel addict, community builder, language geek, dancing queen, and recovering perfectionist. These are her own words, as I found them on her Instagram profile. But knowing her, I have to say it's pretty spot on. And Delphine ditched a 9-to-5 corporate life about 3 years ago, and she started her entrepreneurial journey supporting several companies with their marketing efforts while she was living abroad in the Netherlands. And this is also where we met. And as a new entrepreneur, Delphine felt the lack of colleagues or fellow entrepreneur friends. So that prompted her to create SheBase, a global community for female entrepreneurs who are looking for like-minded women. Now, that alone could be a topic for the podcast because I also have a lot of experience with this and I know the importance of finding your tribe all too well. But that's actually not why I brought Delphine on the show. Delphine and I met a year ago as we were sitting next to each other in a co-working space in The Hague in the Netherlands, and we hit it off straight away. It turned out that we had actually very similar paths, and someone we both knew had already suggested that we meet because she thought that we would get along. And we did. Our conversations went deep within minutes, and there was a lot of mutual recognition and also a lot of laughter. We also had a lot of fun. And Delphine and I have a lot in common, being both in our mid-30s, both living abroad, traveling all the time, choosing our own paths in life, becoming an entrepreneur, navigating the dating scene while we're at it, and so much more. It is an exciting time for both of us, but it can also be a bit of a challenge sometimes. And we found a lot of support with each other, even when we don't see each other regularly because of our travels. And I know Delphine and I aren't the only ones at this stage in our life where we are choosing what is right for us, but where we also face obstacles along the way. So I wanted to invite Delphine to have a really open two-way conversation about topics that are important to us as female globetrotters in our mid-30s. And as always, I hope that with this conversation, you will find tips and inspiration to live your own happy life as well. And to maybe, hopefully, find out that you're not the only one who is facing some obstacles from time to time. So this was a long introduction, but Delphine, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And thanks for the extensive introduction. It's amazing.
Yeah.
I couldn't do better.
Thank you. So let's start first with where are you calling in from? Because I actually don't know where you are right now.
At the moment, I'm at home, to say it, one of my home bases in the Hague, in the Netherlands. So I most of the year I'm here and I'm traveling in between a lot.
Yes.
When it's again a rainy day here, then
Yeah.
the tropical destination's long.
I feel that one a lot. And I think the last time that we met was in December, and it was just before the two of us were going abroad, me to Rio,
Exactly.
and you went to Thailand, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
But you've had
exactly.
several trips since, and I know in 2 days after this podcast interview, you're flying off again, and there are talks about going somewhere for a longer period of time again.
Yes, for
So
sure. Yeah. I think it's the globetrotter in me, but also the person that cannot. I'm very restless when it comes to staying in one place. I'm like, yeah, you know, you want to see more than just your home base. You want to experience different cultures, and I think we have that in common as well. You know, it's just at some point you just want to go in the world and explore. And so next on is Croatia. I have a wedding there, and
nice.
I also don't try to like book too much in advance, because then I have to wait too long until my next adventure. So, and I'm also an entrepreneur, so usually it's just in the moment that I decide to go, and that makes it also very fun.
Yeah, nice. I really resonate with that part that you say, like, you just want to meet like new cultures and experience new things. I think for me, what I struggle with, and I was thinking about it this weekend, actually, like right now I'm living in Rio and it's amazing, but I am someone who doesn't do well with on routine. So even when I'm living in Rio and I'm in my routine for too long, I start to lose my inspiration,
Yeah.
lose my flow. And I think the two of us have that in common.
Yeah. I know that. And I know that it's also good for me sometimes to have some routine, health-wise, or like, that's how you can build something. I also believe in that, but it's just, yeah, like you, it just feels like, I need to change up, or do something
Yeah,
new, or I
exactly.
recognize that.
So you left Belgium, I think about, was it 7 years ago? A long time ago, I think, that you swapped those two countries, Belgium for the
Yeah.
Netherlands.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think it's almost 13 years now.
oh, wow.
It's a long time. Yeah.
You're almost Dutch already.
Yeah.
And now in the last couple of years, you've been really choosing your own path, also by, quitting a regular 9 to 5 job and freelancing. You're building a beautiful community that is really helpful, I think, to a lot of female entrepreneurs. You are traveling longer, you're working from other countries. What made you decide a couple of years ago to really choose your own path in life?
Yeah, good question. Well, I was working the 9 to 5 exactly, and I was working in a big corporate organization in traffic jam every day for 2 hours. And at some point, I was super ambitious, and I had like a list of things that I had to accomplish in a year. Like it was quite crazy if I look back now. Learning a new language, having new friends, but a lot of things that are not really reasonable if you look at it now. And at some point, I got a burnout. So
Mhm.
that was quite a dark period in my life as well, because it's something, you're 28, you're like, what's going on? I just want to climb the corporate ladder, etc. So that really made me think about my life, and I never did that in such a emotional way, because I was always very rational.
Mhm.
Then I thought, like, okay, this is not really working. What should I do? I read a lot of books about personal development. I tried to learn something from that bad experience, instead of just being like, let's fix it and go to the next. And then I decided that I wanted to have a life that I design myself, that
Mhm.
where I create freedom, where I create moments to stand still and just think about things, and do more than just work. And then, I think in a 9 to 5, that's almost impossible.
Mhm.
So, and I always was an entrepreneur by heart, but I was scared, I think, to just jump, and because it's a very lonely ride at some point, in the beginning, especially. So
Yeah.
that was. But after the burnout, I mean, it took me almost 2 years to get out of it. So it didn't go like straight away, but I thought, like, I think it's the time now. I have enough experience. I have a backpack full of international experience as well. So why not jump? And so far, I would never go back. It's the best decision I ever made.
Nice. Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I love my own personal journey in entrepreneurship as well. And once you, despite all the challenges, right, and the uncertainty sometimes, despite everything, I'm sure I will never go back to a regular 9 to 5, because the freedom
So,
that I have right now, and that you have as well, to
yeah,
create your own thing, to decide who you want to work for or with, that's just priceless. And so I think it's really hard
exactly.
to go back.
Yeah, exactly. And at times you work harder because you have a big project, but then you also can give yourself some rest after and go a few
Yeah.
months, like I did, to Asia, and only have like one or two projects. And that's again the non-routine life, right? Like,
Yeah.
just I also try to now follow more my energy and what I need at that time, instead of just like, you work 5 days a week and don't complain, and just do it, and make sure you have some rest in the weekend. That's just,
Yes.
So it's a long story short, but that's basically what triggered me to like think about what I want in life and how I can achieve that. And of course, because I'm also always in a creator mode, like, I have a lot of ideas and things I want to do, and projects. So I think as an entrepreneur, that's the best way to just launch it and do whatever you can make happen. And that's really cool about entrepreneurship as well, I think.
For sure. Yeah, for sure. That is definitely the best part. But personally, I also see it can be a bit of a trap sometimes. And I'm curious how you see this or how you work on this. You know, I'm also full of ideas all the time, like every single day, and my to-do list never ends, because not because of things I have to do, but just because there are things I want to do, things I want to try out. And one of my pitfalls, I guess, is that I can definitely work too much. So I think right now at the moment I'm working like 6 days a week because I just want to do so much, and I love my job and I love what I do. But I also need to be really careful that I don't fall back into, well, I've never really had an official burnout, but I think I was very close to it. And I know I need to be very careful with that. So I'm just curious, how do you like maintain your energy, protect yourself, protect your boundaries, protect you from yourself, basically?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question, because I don't think that I will ever have the answer, because it's going to be a continuous struggle, as in it's something in my personality as well. I will always have a lot of ideas. I will always have, things that I come up with. But what I do is I check in with myself daily. And it's like a kind of like you brush your teeth, like, okay, how am I doing today? Can I have 4 meetings today? No. If not, then sorry, people will have to,
Yeah.
I will have to disappoint people. Or do I have 3 social events this week and I'm not feeling the energy for it? I can really set some boundaries. That before, I was always the one, I was everywhere, I was for everybody, I was with everybody. And so that's something I'm trying to do. And then second, I have a kind of toolbox for myself, that I know that when I feel stressed or I feel like overwhelmed, like for example this morning I had it, then I know that there are a few things I can do to relax. It's like you open a box, like you go to the doctor and you feel like, okay, so dancing is a part of that, meditating is a part of that, but also going for a walk or whatever. And these are like basic things, but it helps me to do something when I feel overwhelmed, instead of waiting 5 days until I'm on my
Yeah.
highest kind of. So instead of waiting too long, I trust my body that it will tell me. And before, I didn't know what it was. Like if people say listen to your body, I'm like, what? Like there's only my there's
Yeah.
only my mind that is talking to me. So how can I listen? That it's So that's what I do. And but sometimes it goes wrong. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Mm.
Sometimes I'm like, oh my God. Like when I was preparing our festival for She-Base a few months ago, I was so enthusiastic and passionate about it. And I was like, well, there's no 9 to 5 here. I can do this until I go to the last minute before I go to bed, because I'm so
Exactly. Yeah.
excited.
Yeah.
But that's not healthy, because I don't have a boss that says, well, we're closed, you
Exactly.
can go home now.
Yeah.
There's nobody telling you that. And it's a kind of mixture between my personal life, then like, networking and She-Base. And then there's no rest. So I need to be
Yeah.
careful. Out of enthusiasm, maybe people will recognize that as an entrepreneur, you're just enthusiastic, but you also need to stop, because
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I so recognize that myself. Like the line as a solo entrepreneur gets very blurry between what's your business and what's your personal life. And
Yes.
if you work a lot
Yes.
from home as well, like it's really blurry.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but also thinking about my own time as a diplomat, like, okay, I wasn't the most enthusiastic about my job because I knew I was going to quit, but it was a very demanding job. And at times it was very exciting and challenging in a good way. And I would also give a lot. And I remember waking up on Sunday morning with text from the headquarters in The Hague, like, hey, can you please look as soon as possible at this and that? It was at the time that the Amazon was on fire, and that was in my portfolio. So I was working a lot as well. And I
Yeah.
really recognize what you say, like living from the head. And I also,
Yes.
I heard people speak like, listen to your body. And I'm like, I thought I was listening to my body,
Yes.
but I was only reading the signs when it was too late. When my eyes
Exactly.
would start twitching, or I had a headache, or I wasn't sleeping well, that's when I listened, but it was already too late. And it took me, like, I think like with you, a longer journey to really land more into my body and to really be present with it. And it's nice that you mentioned the dancing and the meditation and going for a walk, because I'm actually working on a new course that I'm launching at the end of June, which is about grounding for expats. And I'm going to help them find their own grounding practice, because I really believe it's so different for everyone. And it's something that you should include as a prevention in your day-to-day life, and not only when it's too late, because with that you'll go much farther and you'll stay much more connected to what your heart wants, to what your body needs, and not just driven by what your head wants or think it needs. Yeah.
And what is grounding in your how would you explain grounding? Is
Yeah.
it
It's a difficult one. Actually, I still need to figure out my messaging around this, but I really feel it's about connecting more to your authentic self, and not to the ego layer, or to the part of you that wants to perform and deliver, the part of you that knows how to work so hard. I think there are layers beneath that hide the real you. And I'm coaching a lot of expats who come to me that say, like, I need to make a decision about my life, but I don't know what to choose. And they have all these things in their head and they are stuck in a thinking loop. And this to me is the opposite of being grounded, because they're just viewing everything from their head, and all the fears that they experience show up as rational arguments, but they're not. They're fears, and you need to feel them differently, not from the head, but from your body. And you need to understand where they're coming from, and what they really need, so you can meet your needs, fulfill your
No,
needs.
I recognize it, and I remember the first time I did a mindfulness course during my burnout, because you know how it goes. They all give you like these like quick fixes: do yoga, do this and that, and I did everything. I tried everything because I'm very solution driven instead of thinking I needed at that time. So I went to this mindfulness course, and I had to do my meditation, and they said, well, you can find all the answers inside you, and I was like, are you kidding me? Like, seriously, back then, you know, years ago, I was like, are you kidding me? Where can I find them? Like that's just bullshit. Now I tell my friends, go and meditate, you'll find your answers, because it's so true. Because if I quiet my mind, I really know what I feel like. Or for example, if I do something that doesn't resonate with my authentic self, like for example, applying for a job where I have to go, a freelance project where I have to go 4 days a week to the office. Inside me, it's like I told you a few months ago, it's like something eats me inside. It's just, and that's just a reaction from my body that says, are you kidding me? Like, we didn't agree on that, you know? Like a kind of internal conversation I have, like, but then I think, yeah, but you know, sometimes you needed the money, or you need that time, and you think like, well, you know, for a few months it kills you. I mean, for me, I don't want to do that ever again, that I don't listen to what's good. And then I start the conversation like, okay, cool, but I'm not going to do that 4 days. And that's difficult as an entrepreneur. You
I
know?
remember we spoke about this, that we exchanged some voice messages, and I remember very clearly where I was when I sent you the voice messages on the street in Rio, that you really felt a strong need of like, I don't want that anymore, it's eating my soul. But you also were like, yeah, but you know, I'm an entrepreneur and I do need my gigs, like I need to sustain myself. And that is a heart versus head struggle. And I'm curious, what did you decide in the end?
Yeah, so I was so nervous because it was a 10-month project, which is for me, like in my business, very long. So I went there the first week to the office the first day, and I was already feeling like allergic, you know, like, what am I doing here? And she said, okay, so the first weeks you're going to be here and we're going to go on board it, blah, blah. And I said, let's have a conversation to her. I was scared to that, I can tell you. Even I'm my own boss, you don't want to lose it. And then I said to her, okay, so what are your expectations? And maybe 2-3 days a week or 4. And I said to her, well, that's not going to happen. And I was shocked that I said that like this. And I said, I can give you this, that quality. I will give you all my creativity, add to your project, but don't put me in a cage. Like that's not how I work. Like, I'm my own company. I know where I perform best. And that's really in a creative space, but also in a place where I want to be that day. So I can give you 1 day, I said. And she looked at me like, because I didn't make room for negotiation at that moment. I was really like, you know, you're hiring me or not, because at some point I just know what I'm worth for them. And she was like, okay, so you're starting tomorrow to work from home? And I was like, Yeah, actually, yes. And then I came home and there was like, I was like 15 kilo lighter. Seriously. I was like,
Amazing.
yes, Delphine, exactly. And now, I mean, I love the project. I told myself there's still 6 days a week I can go somewhere else.
Yeah.
So, you know, and yeah, but it took me some courage, to be honest, because yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, thanks for the advice. That time was so, because I needed somebody to like remind me of being or like following your true self, although you could lose it, the project or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and this is so good. This is what I enjoy in our relationship or friendship that we have, and also with some others. Like, I know you are going through very similar things sometimes, or you have experienced it before, or you come from a similar like situation or starting point. So you can always give me like the right advice that I need to hear, because you can be as grounded as you can, but there are times that you just don't fully clearly see it, right? And you need just
No,
someone to
no.
remind you of like,
Yeah.
this is who you are, this is what you need, and this is where you're going.
Yeah, we do that a lot with each other. I love that.
Yeah.
It's like, even though we don't talk every week or every day, and it's like, oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, I needed this. And then it's like a podcast of 4 minutes I listen
Yeah.
to. I'm like, yes, Delphine, don't, because we set our own deadlines. We also talked about it, for example. Like,
Yeah.
for example, for the festival, I said, oh, by this date, everything should be ready. But I'm my own boss. I decide this. It's
Yeah.
not like somebody decides it for me. And the same if we talk about boundaries, I do that with people I work with. If they send me an email in the weekend, I mean, I really tell people, like, I'm sorry, send it on Monday, send it on Friday. In the weekend I'm not going to reply. And I also don't want to get an email from them. Why? Because even though I don't do anything with it, I know it's here in my head and I already have
Yeah.
a million things. So I have a business coach, and the first time she sent me a message on Saturday, and I said, "Should I tell her, or is it rude? I'm Flemish. We don't really like we don't
Yeah.
have this direct approach." And on Monday, I said to her, I love it that you thought about the process and whatever, but next time, can we do that on Friday or on Monday? Because like weekends are like for my own time, because I want to decide if I want to work. I don't want to depend it from other people's time schedule or whatever. And she said to me, but you don't have to answer to me in the weekend. I said, well, but it's still in my inbox.
Yeah.
And from then on, she never did that again. And in the beginning, it's a bit like, oh, am I selfish or am I too?
Yeah.
But I have to, because otherwise it never stops, right?
Yeah. Exactly.
So
And this is actually
yeah,
great advice for everyone who's listening or watching on YouTube, and who is in a demanding job, not just entrepreneurs. Because when I was a diplomat, I also had to put my boundaries there, because otherwise, like, you're just, I don't know, other people decide your to-do list and your
decided.
calendar. And it
Yeah,
feels, I think, especially as women, it feels really difficult to put those boundaries in place because we feel selfish or we feel above the other person. But
exactly. Yeah.
actually, you will see that people start to respect it.
Yes.
And if there's an emergency, you can always, take your boundaries away for one occasion.
Yeah.
But people usually start to respect it and they really comply with it as well. And it's saving you so much wasted energy or thinking about things or not being in flow because you've got so many meetings and your whole day is fragmented, So this is
Yes.
good
And it's,
advice.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's exactly what you say. They appreciate it. Plus, you have what you said. You have things in your own hand. Like otherwise, you're running the rat race. And even, I mean, I was 10 years, 11 years almost in a corporate job, and I was account manager. And they always said, "Oh, you're the best account manager." Why? Because I always responded. I mean, I was
Yeah.
very naive. I thought I was. I was not, but I was always there for them. And then I changed it at some point and I challenged their deadlines. That's also maybe some advice. If people put deadlines on you, challenge them. If it's not convenient for you, like, okay, but what if I do it in 2 days? Would that be, I mean, would hell break loose or what would happen? And then
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, okay, well, if it's Friday, it's fine. And then I'm like, why are you making such a fuss? I'm
Yeah.
going crazy in my head because of your deadline. And most of the time, there's a lot of room for,
Exactly.
so challenge them. But that comes with experience, I think, as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I hear underneath all of this is really knowing yourself and knowing what you need and to take action on that, to support yourself in that. So to not let your life be ruled by external circumstances or people or deadlines, but really
100.
create the rules for yourself.
Yes.
And you can do that in work, in your business, but you can also do that in relationships, in family dynamics,
Yeah.
friendships, I mean, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think that's also something I did when I had my burnout. I also looked at my relationships in general. Back then I had a relationship, but also my friendships, like who really adds value to my life? As in, do I get energy from this person, or am I giving a lot? And it's not about finding everywhere a balance, because sometimes people need more than you can give or whatever. But I was like, well, a few people, they have bad energy, and I'm always, when I come back home, I feel like drained or not inspired or whatever. I also did some kind of cleaning, to
Yeah,
say it in a very bad way, baby. But I really believe in that it's important to also set boundaries there. Or before, 10 years ago, I was the one always arranging everything for everybody. I'm still doing a lot because I love it, but sometimes I'm like, do I have the energy and space for it at the moment to fix your next travels?
yeah,
Or look for a freelance opportunity, because I would love for you to do that. Well, not at the moment. And there's always
yeah,
a nice way to tell people. It's not rude to just say, hey, I would love to, but at the moment I just can't.
yeah.
And I think you're also good in doing that. And
I'm very
if we
good at
talk
that.
about, yeah, we talked about the podcast as well before, when you were in The Hague. And then you said, well, but I have first this and that's on my priority, so let's do it. And for me, I love that, because then I know what to expect. And it's just clear communication as well, it's
Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure. I think I'm very good at like people who aren't bringing me joy, like to stand up for myself and what I need. But I also have like a people pleasing part in me that is like, I want to help you. If I can help you, I want to help you. And
Yeah.
sometimes I forget like, oh yeah, but is it really aligned with what I need and where I'm going? And in the
Yeah.
bigger things, I can now easily say no. And sometimes in the small things, it's still a bit difficult that I think, oh, let me just quickly look that up for you while I'm actually in deep work at the moment. So I'm also
Yeah.
figuring that out. But I think in general, going after what I need and supporting myself in that, I'm pretty good. And I would love to take this actually a layer deeper, because just before this podcast, you and we exchanged some voice notes about like, what are we going to talk about? And
Yeah.
we touched upon something which I think a lot of female expats, female globetrotters, entrepreneurs, maybe not just female, but also the men, will probably recognize this. And that is the fact that you have to carry yourself all the time.
Yeah.
And what I hear in this story is that you, after your burnout, realized, okay, I need to put my boundaries in place and this is how I'm going to do it. And knowing from my own experience, traveling, living abroad, starting a business, there are a lot of balls that you need to juggle.
Yeah.
And you have to juggle them all by yourself. And you and I are both single. We don't have a partner at the moment. We talk about this a lot as well, and how we are navigating the dating scene back home and abroad.
Yeah.
But sometimes it can be quite tough to do everything by yourself, to carry yourself all the time and not having
Yes.
anyone next to you who can just take that load off of your shoulders for a little bit. So I would love to dive a little bit deeper into that as well.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. For sure. I think, yeah, we talked about it when you were here as well, because sometimes you're at some point that you have so many projects, you have a busy social life, etc. But you also have a dating life, because that's also one of the projects we have. We don't want to end up
Yeah.
alone, of course. And then it's just like there's a lot of things you need to carry yourself. And I think a few weeks ago I came back from Belgium, and Belgium is, for me, that's family, that's people that know me very well. And you feel really carried, like people, because it's my family, I feel like you're included. And then I come back here and I have a lot of friends here, but no family, no boyfriend or whatever. So it was a very tough day. I had to go to the hospital while I was not feeling well, driving yourself, you know how it goes,
Yeah.
answering some calls and going it. And I came home and I just cried my ass. I was so destroyed. And I was like, what is this? And I was just like, in myself was like, can somebody just like carry me, like you said, like I would wish for somebody to just share with me this sometimes like 20 kilo on my back,
Yeah.
and just be like, hey, I got you, like I
Yeah.
got you. You don't have to be in your masculine energy
Yes.
all the time.
Yes.
And I even say that in when I'm dating, I'm like, I don't want to be this masculine
Yeah.
girl that like I need this and I want and I'm so independent. And no, I want somebody where I feel like, hey, I can relax. It's
Yeah.
okay. I don't
Yeah.
have to be this like, whoa, I can do everything on my own. No, please. But it depends on the guy how I act as well,
Yeah.
in my opinion. So yeah, there was a moment that I reflected. I was like, oh my God, wow. And then I just let it in. Instead of, I think years ago I would fight it, like, why are you feeling like
Yeah.
that? And sad, and you feel sad. But now I'm like, well, yeah, it's normal. Look at what you're doing on your own. I
Yeah.
mean, like, yeah. And then I also reach out to friends that go through the same, because I know I'm not the only one. I'm sure
Yeah.
people that are listening now are like, oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you feel the same? Like how do you handle this when you feel these kind of moments?
Yeah, I definitely, a couple of years ago, I would be the same like the previous you. Like I would just like, no, push it away. Or I would maybe cry for 15 minutes thinking I was in touch with my feelings. And then I would just like soldier on and solution driven and future oriented. And I think everything changed for me in the perfect storm that I like to call it now. So, that when I returned home after Brazil, within 3 months, I moved country, started a new job at the ministry, moved to a new house. My dad died. I fell in love. My heart got broken. There was a pandemic. It was a lot of shit going on in just a
Wow.
couple of months. And I had no other solution. I mean, I couldn't do anything else than to just cry. There was no
Yeah.
escaping from it this time. Normally, I would distract myself with a flight and go somewhere on a trip, or I would find a solution, and both weren't really possible at the time because of the pandemic and because it was too much to handle. And ever since that moment, I am so much more in touch with what I feel and what I need. And actually, it was yesterday evening, and I'm going to open up here, that I really felt already for a day and a half this nagging feeling, like very small, but like knocking on my door a tiny bit. And I was okay. Like it wasn't like I was very sad or angry or frustrated. No, but I felt something is off. I'm not in my best mood. I'm not in my best energy. I'm very tired, and I can't really pinpoint what it is. And something triggered me yesterday of a boy who I shouldn't even be thinking about anymore. And I realized what it was really about. And that was that I was missing my dad a lot. And so this grief came back in again. And my dad and I, we didn't have the best relationship. I didn't see him every week. We were calling each other once every 2 weeks, I think, in the last years of his life. But occasionally, every couple of months, there's this little wave, like, oh, I miss him, or I even miss my mom sometimes. And I had an even worse, not even worse, but I had not a good relationship with her. It wasn't very, she wasn't very present in my life. And
Okay.
last week, I remember I was falling asleep and I was waking up with a kind of feeling. And it was like a half conscious, half sleepy realization that I don't have any parents anymore. And
Anxiety.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it was like, it hit me not with the head, but right in the heart. Like there was not even
Wow.
processing or analyzing it. It was like a body reaction to it. And I think subconsciously this was what was going on in the last couple of days. And then yesterday I was running, and this is when I felt like, oh fuck, I miss my dad.
Yeah.
And yesterday I allowed myself a good cry as well. I just did that, and I thought, yeah, I can grieve my dad even though we didn't have a good relationship when he was alive.
Right.
I can grieve my dad. I can grieve the fact that I don't have any parents anymore to rely on. That home feeling that you mentioned in Belgium.
Yeah.
I do have that with some other family members, but not in a biological sense anymore.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I can feel sorry for myself, and that is something I had to learn as well, to allow myself to have pity,
Yeah.
empathy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I think
for
this has
yourself.
been key in how I'm dealing with everything. And so, sorry, long answer to your question. But
No,
right
thanks for
now,
sharing. No.
yeah. Right now,
Yeah,
I feel physical sensations first, and then because I'm so much more aware of my emotions and my body, I can really stop myself right away. Like, hey, something is going on. Something is asking
what
for my
is this?
attention.
Yes,
And normally it would go for weeks, and I wouldn't notice until, an outburst would come.
it
And now I'm just
explodes.
it's more subtle. And
Yeah.
I do make space for it. And something that I still have to learn a little bit more is to then also ask for help around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not always easy. And no, I really appreciate you sharing this story, because it's of course something, it's coming from very deep. And I think it's good that we listen instead of just pushing it away with doing things. Because what I'm
Yes.
saying more about this toolkit, that's when I know I need to relax or whatever, but I never push away things,
Yeah.
because that's gonna happen. That's a bit what I grew up with. Just
Mm-hmm.
turn the conversation around, do something else, go on a holiday, blah blah blah. You will always have yourself with you. So what you did
Yeah.
is actually like, okay, whoa, this is like an experience I feel from inside. So wait a minute, and then you just find the answer to why you're feeling like that, and that's beautiful, because you think it's the boy, but the boy, of course, was something just temporary and
Yeah.
whatever. And I had the same with some dates that you think like, why am I getting so angry about this? That you're like,
Yeah.
this is not normal. This reaction comes from somewhere else.
Yes.
Uh, and I did my therapy as well. I think it's just important. Even I think everybody should do it, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
agree.
you realize like, oh, some things just got stuck from the past, or you learn about yourself, and that it's not always a person in front of you that you know for 3 weeks that is triggering emotions. They just do something that reminds your body
Yeah,
and your to that moment. So it's
exactly.
beautiful how you share that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good point that you bring out. Like when you notice yourself responding quite strongly to something that is not really, in proportionate to what is really going
Exactly.
on, then you can be certain that it's an echo from the past you're responding to. So
Yeah.
something in your body is being triggered by it, and that's the thing that you need to make space for, not the boy or
No,
yeah,
not the boy.
yeah,
Yeah, don't get angry at the boy, because the poor
yeah.
dude is apparently not for you. But
Okay, speaking of boys, can I ask you something? Because this is something I've come to learn over the last couple of months, I would say, is that I'm 36. I'm pretty ambitious in terms of, like, I know with my business what I want. I have high goals, and I'm aiming for them. And I also know internationally I want to live in different locations, and I want to continue travel. I'm not sure if I want to have kids or if I want to start a family. And if so, I want it so that it's an addition to my life, or at least that the two can merge a little bit more. This is very far off from the traditional relationship or traditional life that a lot of people live, especially in the Netherlands, at least my circles. This is, I think, also why I've been postponing the kids, because I feel that's going to be the end of my freedom. I don't really see, I know only two examples that continue living a somewhat free life, but it's not really the norm. And so in dating, what I've recently discovered is that I had a few situationships, and even though I was very clear from the beginning, this is what I am, this is what I'm looking for, also in my relationship and in the men, they said at some point, like, yeah, this is not for me. I'm not sure if you're ready for a relationship, because they really viewed it from their point of view with a more traditional life. And I'm just curious, how are you finding dating with the same ambition, with the same age, with the same desires and dreams for yourself, and also knowing very clearly this is what I need to feel good in life? So do you want to share anything about that?
yeah, sure. Well, my short answer is challenging, and that's an understatement. Because all the things you say, I recognize 100%. Like, I've been in very long relationships years ago, and that was always like, I don't know, I was more still living the traditional life. But since a few years, I'm not. And I was a digital nomad for a few years without a home base. I traveled a lot. And I also thought about what I want in life instead of like, oh, you have a relationship. How can we find a life? You just think about what is the bare minimum that I want. And
Yeah.
then the business I have. And just as you, like the goals I have, I don't want somebody to come in and be like, well, I'm sorry, you're too like ambitious. Can you please lower a little bit or whatever? So then you think when I came back here to find my home base, I thought, well, yeah, let's go on a date and see where it goes from that. And I have a good example from that. I met a guy, and it was really we got along well, and he also lived in Thailand apparently for a few years. So it was like, hey, international minded, but he still lives here. But okay, we'll figure that out. And then at some point he talked about personal development and traveling and how do I see that. And I said, you know what? I did a podcast interview when I was in Thailand about solo travel, but also how I see life. Maybe I can share it with you. And the funny thing was that my emotional part said, ooh, is that a good idea or not? Because maybe it will scare him off.
Yeah.
And then I thought, don't do this again, because if it scares him off, it's not your person, right?
Yes.
And I just, before I was always trying to minimalize it, how I think, because then it would scare him off. And now I said, you know what? I'm just going to share it with him.
Yeah.
What happened? What happened is that he listened to it and he said, wow, but interesting story. And I knew already, like, okay, masculine energy, to say it like that. My masculine energy was like, okay, I'm gonna defend where I stand for. And he said, well, okay, nice story and whatever, whatever your ambitions are. How can you ever combine this with a relationship? So there was already an assumption it was impossible.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I was like, I was quite, if we talk about emotions, I was quite over emotional about it because there was something in me that triggered the past, like, hey, you have to stay small and you're a woman. So, and I said to him, how do you mean? He's like, yeah, you want this and that. But if you want to be away 6 months a year on your own, that's not what I want. And I said, but did you ask me if that's what I want? No,
Oh,
I'm dating because I would love to do that with someone.
yeah.
I don't want to find a partner to do everything on my own because please, I'm already doing that.
Yeah.
um, but he already made up his mind about me. I had this label, like I'm just a little bird that is always wants to
Yeah.
run.
Yeah.
Um, and if you really know me and my friends know me, I'm super loyal. I love my family. I have stable friendships and everything, but just don't put me in a cage. And I said to him, it's very sad that we cannot have a conversation of like how to bring this together because I'm
Yeah.
very open-minded about that. Like,
Yeah.
but of course, if his answer was, well, the next 10 years I bought a house, I want to stay here. Well, I run away, girl. I've run away. I'm like, you cannot put me there in that. So yeah, so that's a long answer, but it's an example of what happens. And it makes me sometimes super scared to express really, really what
Yeah.
my true um, desires are in life.
Yes. Yeah.
Um, and even about my business, they're intimidated sometimes. And
Yes.
some other ladies will feel that as well. It's like, oh, wow, oh, yeah, you're doing this and that. And so, yeah, one guy even asked me once, so what's your hourly rate? Because I want to know if it's more than mine. And
Wow.
I was shocked. I was
Yeah.
like, we are on a date. We're not in a negotiation meeting or something about, I don't know. And I didn't share it with him, and he was a bit pissed off. He's like, well, I'm not sure if I would feel good if I know that you earn more than me. And I'm like,
Wow.
yeah. I'm like, but if we would do it together, that's even better, right? And we just bring each other up and but in real life,
Yeah.
it's not like that. Even if we want to believe that for women now it's
Yeah.
different and emancipation, sorry, most of the time I don't experience that with men.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
Do
Thanks for
you recognize
sharing.
that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I do. I do and I don't. So I do recognize the label that you could get put on. So I had a very short situationship with someone from another country, or two actually. And the first one said, initially, like I was very clear from the start what I wanted, and he went along with it. But then later he took distance, and then he was very honest, and he said, well, like I said earlier, like, I'm not sure if you are really ready for a relationship. And that made me so angry because I thought you are defining a relationship from your point of view. I'm very ready for a relationship. I'm also very loyal. I give a lot to my relationship. I want a true partnership. But no, I don't want it to be settled with each a 9 to 5 and pay, a mortgage and kids, and we never leave that place anymore. So I do want the relationship. I just want the context to be different. And it annoyed me that he didn't, it annoyed me that he didn't consider that even or ask me about it, like you said. So, so that was a bit annoying. And then the other one also started off with me, and I was a bit less clear about it this time because we were just having fun. But I was very clear about, I'm in Rio now, but after Rio, I can go anywhere because I don't want to go back to the Netherlands, really. I can happily spend a few months in your country. And he refused at some point. He backed out because he said, I don't think I can start anything at distance because I know how it's going to end. And it's not going to be nice. I'm not going to be nice to you. So, okay, that was some self-awareness on his side, but it also annoyed me because I'm very much someone who always sees the opportunity in something. That's also why I'm an entrepreneur. You're a problem solver as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And for someone to already close the door because he has never experienced it and he doesn't even want to try, well, it's a good thing actually, because that person is not the one for me either. But so with this situation, I've been dealing with that in slightly different ways, and it's been frustrating, but also it's good that it happened so quickly because this is such a deeply personal thing. Like if you want to try out things, even though it will be hard, I always see an opportunity to make it happen. And if someone doesn't, then that's not the right person for me.
No, exactly. Yeah.
But I also have to say the ambition, I have been in longer relationships with guys that have always supported my ambition. So I was in a relationship before where I made more money than the other person. I bought his tickets also to come visit me when I was living in Brazil the first time. And that was never an issue. It was really fine.
No.
And in my other relationship where I was starting with all these big goals and being an entrepreneur, the person was also very, very supportive of me. So I do feel it is possible, but maybe to have both, like the ambition support and the international support. I'm still trying to find that sweet spot with the guys.
For sure, for sure. And the examples you give also, for me, it was during dating life. Like the relationships I had, for me, if somebody doesn't support me in that and he's afraid of my ambition, that wouldn't work for so many years.
Yeah.
So it's really like in the dating life now, and maybe also because I changed, that I'm like sometimes like, why would you be intimidated? It's
Yeah.
and in the beginning they're always very enthusiastic about it, but
Yes.
and the same with what you say with the kids topic. That's of course a big one, but I mean, it's still this, like for you, it's still such a big question mark. Like, would I give it up for to have kids and then give my life like this up? But what you said, I'm a problem solver, so I cannot believe sometimes that there's no like gray zone here, that there's no way to like not lose yourself. And I'm sure what I always do, if I don't believe it myself, I try to find examples of people that already do it.
I do that too.
Yeah, you too. And then I follow them and like, you see, there's proof. And I'm not saying it's easy or whatever. And it's of course not the norm. So people are like, wow. But yeah, there should be, but I still haven't figured it out. So like, but it's definitely something society sometimes asks. And I do feel the pressure. And some months more than others. And we talked about it as well. You're 35, I'm 35. So it's like, oh, wow. So you should decide now and you should know. And
that's a good point that you raised, because I felt the pressure also very strongly in the Netherlands from my own family, even though they don't mean it. So if they're listening, I don't take it personal. But also from society and then from what I see around me. And I just, especially as a woman, like the pressure is so strong. And now that I'm in Rio, and also when I was traveling in Argentina, like 2 months ago, I think, I met these amazing badass women that are just living their best international life and going after what they want. And one just got pregnant, but she's going to continue that. But the others were like still undecided and they were so fine with it. And so having those people around me, I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm not the only one who still doesn't know.
Yes.
And there are people who don't put this pressure on me that really applaud me for what I'm doing and giving me all the freedom.
Yeah, exactly this. And I think if you surround yourself with the same people, then or with like-minded people, then suddenly you don't feel so weird or so, because I never had
Yeah.
that feeling. Also, when I was younger, like, oh, I want to have a baby, I want to be a mom.
Same.
You have some friends that have that. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're 18, like, I want to become a mom, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, I have 15 other things I want to
Yeah.
do,
Same.
and then maybe I'll think about that. And then you
Yeah.
feel, am I feminine enough? I mean, I had that.
Yeah.
Like, is it normal? Is there something missing that
Yeah.
why I'm feeling that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point, because it's almost like there's something wrong with you if you don't want kids, or if you don't want to have them. You always have to defend yourself. And like, you always get the questions, do you already have kids? Why don't you want to have kids, etc. But they're never asked the other way, like, why do you
Oh,
have kids? Or when
yeah.
you're
That's
single,
a good
like,
one.
how's your, yeah, but when you're single, every time I see my family, they're like, how's your love life? Like, should I ask about your love life as well, and the trouble in your relationship? No. So
Oh my God. That's
yeah.
so, I recognize that. And I did a kind of an experiment the last time I was in Belgium, and I knew there would be a lot of people from when I was studying there. And all of them, like, so do you have any kids? Like, there wasn't even a boyfriend with me, It
Yeah.
was like, do you have any kids? Okay. And then I just said no, full stop.
Yeah.
And then you have that awkward moment of silence. I think
Yeah.
it takes seconds because they wait for an explanation.
Yeah.
And I think I read something on Instagram or something like, why would you explain yourself? So I thought, no, I'm not going to explain.
Yeah.
And they looked at me like there's going to come, and I didn't say anything. And I said, so, and I started to talk about other things. And I'm like, because I'm not going to do that. I shouldn't. And who are you to have like a conversation about what are maybe I cannot have kids, maybe
Yeah.
something traumatic about it or whatever.
Yeah.
You can of course ask it, but I don't have to explain myself. That's
No.
on me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
right. But
Yeah.
somehow we expect it. Oh,
Yeah.
maybe she's not now gonna explain why.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's because you're not going through the regular path. We are
Yes.
challenging the norm in what we're doing. I think already as entrepreneurs, you do that. You don't go to the regular 9 to 5
Yeah.
job, but it's already more accepted. Like, people don't really question me anymore. Like, why are you an entrepreneur? But this thing about relationships and kids, especially as a woman, it's something so personal, but people take it as something that they can just talk about all the time or
Yeah.
ask you about.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's really, I love that we're opening up space for this, because we said before, it's so nice that we can find that recognition with each other. You mentioned,
Love.
like,
Yeah.
find examples of people who are already doing it, or also who haven't figured it out and who are really calm with it. I
Yeah.
always tell my coachees, if they have something that they feel too afraid on, like, find 5 role models that are going to help you through this. And we mentioned Celine Charlotte before in our conversations. I interviewed
Yes.
her in episode 3, I
I
think.
follow her.
Yeah, so she's a solo mom in New York
Yeah.
now. And like, I always thought I never want to become a solo mom, because I don't really like children. If I want them, it will be with a partner. But
Same.
since yeah, but since she's been doing that, now all of a sudden I do feel a bit more relaxed about the topic, because there is another option, and it's a badass option the way that she's doing it.
Yeah.
And so that gives me a bit of peace of mind, like, oh, I always have that as my backup option if I do want to have kids. Or
I know.
yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
And it's
find your role
empowering.
models.
Yeah.
Find your role models.
It's so funny because I also follow her, and since she did the whole process, I'm like, okay, I'm curious what's gonna happen when she has the kid, right? Like,
Yeah.
will it be that easy? And I'm like, and then I thought, well, I never saw myself as a single mom. I still don't know or whatever. But if by any chance I want to have kids and there's no partner, if I look at her, I'm like, I'm like, I find solutions for everything. So I'm
Yeah.
sure I
Yes,
would find ways to make it happen as well, and not
exactly.
like, well, then this part is not for me because somebody decided it's not.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really inspiring. It's funny that you also
Yeah.
follow her stories
It
and
doesn't surprise me that we both found this
no.
interesting in our life. But I like what you say, like, that you are a problem solver. And this is great. Like, if you're listening to this show, like, take this into account. You have qualities that you've shown to yourself in your life. And if your quality is that you are a problem solver, don't forget that you have these qualities also in the future. So whatever comes your way, like, you're a problem solver, so you will find a solution also for something this big, or something that is still so uncertain, or for something that you probably need someone for, you know, for a relationship, or for kids. You can't do it entirely on your own. So
trust yourself.
yeah, if you feel uncertain about your future, or you can't really identify with everyone around you, like, don't forget about the qualities that you already have within you, because they will also be there in the future, and they, you can use them going forward. I really like what
Beautiful.
you say.
Yeah, for sure.
So, Delphine, I mean, we can talk for hours, but maybe it's
For hours.
time to wrap it up. I just wanted to say thank you for being so open. And when we discussed it, we spoke about, like, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? And we had a few topics. And I also thought, like, it would be nice to have a really open conversation. And you told me, give me a little bit to think about this. And then you came back with a voice message and you said, yes, because I want to stand for this also with She-Base, where people can find recognition, can find support with each other, where they can be their authentic selves, and they can really open up, and so that they can also live their best life. And so I also want to put this into practice, and I do want to have this open conversation. And I know it cannot be easy. Like, not everyone is super comfortable opening up, and you might always have in the back of your mind, like, oh, how's this professionally going to look on me, or what if a potential date is going to listen to this podcast? But so I really applaud your courage also, and your openness here, which is also allowing me to open up. And so I really want to thank you for this beautiful conversation.
Thank you. Likewise. And I think what you said, practice what you preach, first of all. And second, I do believe that if one person opens up, it just works both ways, and people feel safe. And the same for the community, you know, if people feel safe and the environment is like, oh, but she opens up, then I can also tell my story. And it's like a kind of, you know, it just ignites things. And so I'm really happy that you triggered that in me, and that I of course had to think about it, like, just because it's always a bit like, oh, what do I want to share? I want to share everything, but it's a kind of barrier. And then I thought, no, that's also, I think it helps. The same with the burnout, with people that are like, oh, it shouldn't be a taboo anymore. It's part of you, and just, you know, people can help you, people can inspire you, and you're not alone. That's
Exactly. Yeah. Just like Celine Charlotte opened up the space with her journey, and we're talking about her. Hopefully, you know, what we talk about is also going to help others on their journey, and they can pay it forward. And so together we can open up space for these topics that we do secretly discuss with friends from time to time, but not often enough, I think, in the open space, in the public space. So yeah, that's great. And maybe also, you can share a little bit about what you are currently working on, because I know you are creating that space for female entrepreneurs all around the globe to find support with each other. So if you are an entrepreneur and you're listening to the show, She-Base might actually be really interesting for you. I'm definitely going to join. Yeah. So can you maybe share a little bit more for our listeners?
Yeah, of course. I mean, we talked about it before, and finding your tribe. And when I started as an entrepreneur, suddenly I didn't have any colleagues anymore. You work on your own, have different projects, you discuss with yourself, you're your own CEO, marketing manager, accountant, everything. And at some point, I started to look for communities, but I didn't find like a one-stop shop, I call it, or a one-stop tribe where I can, you know, share my wins, but also my challenges, learn something, connect. And then specifically for location independent entrepreneurs like you and me, who like to live everywhere, we have different challenges. So then I thought, as we are solution driven people, why not create it myself? And it's a global community. It's going to be an online platform where people from all over the world can join, where we inspire each other, we connect. And there's going to be like a monthly, how can you say it, like a kind of mastermind where we share our challenges, because I really want to make room for, hey, in breakout rooms, I'm struggling with this and that. I'm not only talking about accountancy or whatever, but also, hey, I'm overwhelmed. What should I do? Or I'm just working 7 days a week. Can somebody tell me what you would do? And we do it, you know, in our voice messages, but it would be great to connect entrepreneurs that maybe don't have also this kind of right hand that they always can call, and there's so many ladies around the world that need it, and I would love to create a space for that. So yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah, it's a kind of mission for me to do that and to make some great connections there. And yeah, so the platform goes live on the end of the month, the 31st. And yeah, we really want to learn from all the members that will join. It's going to be a free platform to start with, to see what do we need to get to know each other. And yeah, everybody has a voice in it. It's for me important. I'm gonna be the founder of Shebase, but I want to create it with entrepreneurs and not for them only. So
amazing.
yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're on a beautiful mission, and I can't wait for the membership to start. I'll be part of it from the first hour.
That would
I'm
be
really
amazing.
excited about it. Yeah. So
Thank
I will
you.
link the website and your Instagram to the show notes. So people who are listening, they can sign up. So it's going to be on the 31st of May. So if you are listening to this episode later than that, then go check it out, because it's probably still ongoing and a lot of fun and only growing and growing. But for the others, there is a chance to already sign up for the first events. So that is amazing. Cool. Delphine, thank you so much for sharing everything that you shared today. And maybe we could do like a sequence in a year or so to see how things are going for us then. Yeah, let's do that.
Yes. There's only growth from here. So that's amazing.
The
Thanks
only
for
way
the
is up.
opportunity.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.